Welcome to Starlight Sci-Fi, where the universe is vast and humanity's potential is limitless. Today, we bring you a gripping tale of survival, defiance, and an unexpected twist in the battle for free will. Stay with us as we explore what happens when aliens try to control humanity, only to make their biggest mistake. They came without warning, no grand announcement, no ominous warships blotting out the sky, just silence and an invisible hand closing around the planet. The architects were a race of conquerors, but they did not wage wars. They had no need for devastation or destruction. Instead, they perfected the art of control. For thousands of years, they had expanded across the stars, subjugating entire civilizations without firing a single shot. Their method was simple: a neural serum, a liquid formula engineered to overwrite independent thought. Once administered, it restructured the brain, dissolving rebellion, eliminating personal ambition, and turning entire species into willing servants. It had never failed. Earth was just another world to them, another stepping stone in their endless expansion. They observed humanity with clinical detachment, noting their wars, their struggles, their fragile unity. The architects saw them as primitive, chaotic, inefficient, but they were adaptable, and that made them useful, not as equals but as workers, engineers, laborers, another species to be woven into the grand order. So they acted. One night, without a single warning shot, the architects released the serum into Earth's atmosphere. Microscopic particles drifted down like an unseen mist, carried by wind and rain, inhaled by every living human. The gas was odorless, tasteless, undetectable. Within hours it had spread across the planet. The architects waited. It always started the same way. The serum reached the brain and spread through neural pathways, dissolving resistance before the host even knew what was happening. Within moments, the victim's will to fight, to question, to act independently was erased. A calm acceptance would settle in, a quiet surrender. They watched as humans paused in confusion. Some staggered, gripping their heads. Others dropped whatever they were holding, eyes unfocused, limbs trembling. Neural pathways flickered, their minds teetering on the edge of submission. And then something went wrong. Instead of falling into quiet obedience, humans reacted unpredictably. Some collapsed, convulsing as if their bodies were rejecting an infection. Others laughed hysterically, tears streaming down their faces. Some stood perfectly still, their breathing slow, their gazes sharp and unsettling. A few looked to the sky as if suddenly aware of something far beyond their world. The architect's records contained no mention of such resistance. The serum was absolute. It had worked on empires far older and more advanced than this one. Yet here, on this backward little planet, the process had broken. For the first time in their long, calculated history, the architects encountered something they could not control, and they had no idea what they had just awakened. The architects had conquered countless species. Every time the response was the same: docility, obedience, submission. The neural serum was their greatest achievement, an unstoppable tool that stripped away free will and replaced it with unwavering compliance. It had never failed. Until now. On Earth, the serum spread as expected, saturating the atmosphere, seeping into every breath, embedding itself in the minds of billions. The architects waited for the familiar signs, the slackened expressions, the dulled eyes, the quiet acceptance. Instead, they saw chaos. It began with trembling hands and rapid heartbeats. Across the world, people collapsed in the streets, their bodies convulsing violently. Scientists in sterile laboratories fell against their equipment, clutching their heads as if an unbearable pressure had built inside. Some screamed, not in fear, but in something deeper, something primal. Others remained perfectly still, their minds seemingly detached from reality. A wave of erratic behavior spread across the globe. Some humans laughed uncontrollably, while others wept without reason. In homes and offices, in subways and on highways, people acted with an eerie unpredictability. A woman in London wrote equations across her walls in frantic, shaking hands, solving problems that had baffled physicists for centuries. A child in Mumbai stared at a blank sheet of paper before drawing intricate star maps of galaxies no human had ever explored. A soldier in Brazil, overwhelmed by an inexplicable sense of clarity, disassembled his rifle, then reconstructed it in half the time, modifying it in ways beyond his prior knowledge. This was not submission. It was something else entirely. The serum was designed to dismantle independent thought, to dissolve ambition and self-awareness, but instead of erasing these traits, it had amplified them. The human brain resisted, refusing to yield. Neural pathways, rather than shutting down, expanded, reorganizing at an accelerated rate. The architect's own technology, so advanced it had never been questioned, had triggered something they had not anticipated. A great awakening. Reports flooded the architect's observation vessels in orbit. Their monitors, once prepared to measure compliance, now displayed erratic, unreadable data. Brain activity in humans spiked far beyond normal thresholds. Thought patterns fractured and reformed in unpredictable ways. For the first time in recorded history, the architects encountered a species whose minds did not succumb. They evolved. Panic spread through the architects' ranks. They had seen resistance before, but nothing like this. This was not a rebellion of weapons or armies. It was a transformation at the very core of a species, an irreversible shift. And something more disturbing loomed beneath the surface. Some humans, those who stood motionless, those who had gone silent, were thinking. Not in the way the architects understood, but in ways deeper, faster, more profound. They were looking past the chaos, past the architects themselves. Something ancient and dormant had stirred within humanity, and for the first time the architects wondered if they had made a mistake that could never be undone. The architects watched, expecting humanity to collapse under the weight of their own altered minds. In every other species, the serum had wiped away resistance, leaving behind compliant, thoughtless drones. The architects had refined it over thousands of years, ensuring there was no possibility of failure. But humans did not crumble. They changed. In every corner of the world, the effects of the serum spread like wildfire. Erratic at first, unpredictable, but soon patterns emerged. Certain individuals displayed heightened intelligence, solving problems that had baffled humanity for centuries. Mathematicians grasped equations that once required lifetimes of study. Engineers designed machines with impossible precision. Artists created masterpieces beyond mortal comprehension, as if painting visions from another reality. And it wasn't just intellectual. Some humans unlocked abilities that defied the architect's understanding of physics and biology. A woman in Cairo moved objects without touching them, her mind bending the world around her. A scientist in Switzerland reached into the quantum fabric of reality, sensing atomic structures with newfound awareness. A child in Beijing, blind since birth, described colors and shapes in vivid detail, perceiving the world in ways no one could explain. But the most dangerous transformation was not physical or intellectual. It was psychological. The serum had shattered the natural mental barriers that limited human ambition, fear, and doubt. Inhibitions dissolved. The hesitation that once held humanity back disappeared. Where other species had surrendered under the serum's influence, humanity surged forward with terrifying momentum. Everywhere, people acted with ruthless efficiency. A pilot in Canada who had once struggled with flight simulations suddenly maneuvered fighter jets with impossible precision. Hackers in Berlin, their minds now operating like supercomputers, cracked encrypted alien networks within seconds. Doctors in Mumbai instinctively understood the human body in ways beyond medical science, healing injuries once thought untreatable. The world itself began to shift. Governments, corporations, and entire social structures trembled as individuals rose beyond their former limits. The architects had designed the serum to break minds, but instead, it had freed them. And then a new phenomenon emerged, the silent ones. Scattered across the planet were those who had neither collapsed nor panicked. They did not speak nor react to the chaos around them. They stood in place, breathing steadily, their eyes focused on something unseen. Their brains, when scanned, exhibited activity beyond anything the architects had encountered. Their thoughts moved faster than any recorded intelligence, patterns forming and dissolving in milliseconds. But it was not random. It was deliberate. They were thinking, calculating, and when they finally moved, it was not in fear or confusion. It was with certainty, with purpose. They looked up, past the sky, past the stars, right at the architects themselves. For the first time in history, the conquerors were no longer the ones observing. They were the ones being watched. The architects had always believed themselves untouchable. Their conquests were swift, their methods perfect, their control absolute. No species had ever resisted their influence. Until now. From their observation vessels in orbit, they watched Earth descend into chaos. But it was not the kind of collapse they expected. Humanity was not crumbling under the weight of its awakening. It was adapting, changing, evolving. This could not be allowed. The architects, for all their technological prowess, had no true military. They had never needed one. Their fleets were built for control, not war. But they had contingency measures, suppression units designed to quell any resistance before it could take root. These units had been deployed only a handful of times in history, and every time the outcome had been the same: immediate, absolute compliance. Believing Earth to be no different, the architects acted. Their ships descended through the atmosphere, sleek black vessels slicing through the clouds. They targeted major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Sao Paulo, Tokyo, deploying specialized enforcement drones. These machines emitted subsonic frequencies meant to pacify the population, reinforce the serum's influence, and eradicate any remaining resistance. It had worked on every world before. On Earth, it failed instantly. The moment the drones activated, humans reacted, not with fear, but with cold, calculated efficiency. The serum had broken their limitations. They saw the machines for what they were: an obstacle to be removed. In New York, a group of engineers, their minds now enhanced beyond recognition, dismantled a drone in seconds, reverse engineering its core technology and repurposing it as a weapon. In Sao Paulo, a child, barely 10 years old, looked at the sky, raised a hand, and, without understanding how, sent an electromagnetic pulse through the air, frying an entire squadron of drones mid-flight. In Tokyo, a single hacker, now thinking faster than any supercomputer, breached the architect's command network and shut down suppression efforts across the region. The suppression force was shattered within minutes. The architects, stunned by the sudden and overwhelming failure, sent their next wave. Ground enforcers, biomechanical creatures designed to physically subdue host populations. These enforcers, standing nearly 3 meters tall with reinforced armor, had crushed resistance on countless worlds. Their presence alone was often enough to break the will of entire civilizations. But humanity no longer had a will to break. Fear was gone. Doubt was erased. Soldiers fought with impossible precision, anticipating attacks before they happened. Civilians, once helpless, moved with a clarity of purpose that defied explanation, repurposing weapons, setting traps, thinking 10 steps ahead. Martial artists moved faster than humanly possible, striking with inhuman force. Scientists, now seeing the world in its rawest form, altered weapons on the spot, improving them in ways the architects couldn't comprehend. The architects had never been afraid of war. They had never needed to be. Now they understood fear for the first time. They had not subdued humanity, they had unleashed them. The architects had no word for fear. It was not something they had ever needed to understand. Their civilization had thrived for millennia without war, without conflict, without opposition. Their control had been absolute. Their technology had ensured it. Now for the first time they faced something they could not control. Humanity had not just resisted their serum, it had transformed because of it. Their attempt at subjugation had instead unlocked a potential they had never anticipated. The architects watched in growing horror as their suppression forces were wiped out with ease. Every countermeasure failed. Every attempt to pacify the humans was met with ruthless efficiency. This was not rebellion. This was not desperation. This was something else. The suppression fleet, once an unstoppable force, now lay in ruins. Architect drones had been hijacked, reprogrammed to fight against their creators. Ground enforcers, engineered to be invincible, were torn apart by soldiers who moved too fast, struck too hard, and anticipated every attack before it happened. Tactical formations that had worked on 100 other worlds collapsed the moment they were deployed against humans. Worse still were the ones who did not fight, the silent ones. The architects had detected them early, individuals who had neither panicked nor reacted with violence. They had simply watched. Their neural activity was unlike anything the architects had ever seen. At first the conquerors had dismissed them as anomalies, outliers in an otherwise chaotic response. But then, the patterns emerged. These humans were communicating without words, without technology. Their thoughts, sharpened beyond comprehension, reached across vast distances, exchanging ideas in ways even the architect's most advanced systems could not track. They were learning, sharing, evolving as one, and they had turned their attention upward. The architect's orbital fleet, once safely above the fray, was no longer untouchable. Systems flickered, disrupted by forces they could not detect. Communications scrambled as if an unseen presence was listening, unraveling their code in real time. The ships themselves began to falter, engines stuttering, artificial gravity destabilizing. This was impossible. Humanity did not possess this level of technology. They had been primitive just days ago, and yet the evidence was undeniable. Something was reaching into their systems, something far beyond the architect's understanding. Then, the silent ones moved. Without warning, the first human ships launched, not from secret government facilities, not from hidden military bases, but from scrapyards, research labs, and repurposed alien wreckage. The Serum had not just freed their minds, it had given them the ability to create, to adapt, at speeds that should have been impossible. The architects realized the truth too late. They had not simply lost control of Earth, they had created something greater than themselves. For the first time in their long history, the architects did something no species had ever forced them to do. They ran. The architects had never fled before. Their rule was unchallenged, their authority unquestioned. For millennia they had expanded across the galaxy, bending species to their will without a single war. Their neural serum was their weapon, their guarantee of order, but Earth had broken that guarantee. Their fleet, once an immovable force in the sky, was no longer safe. Human minds, sharpened beyond comprehension, had reached past the boundaries of their world. The silent ones, those who had neither panicked nor fought in traditional ways, were now something else entirely. Their thoughts moved faster than the architect's most powerful computers, their understanding of the universe deepening by the second, and now they were looking beyond Earth. Chips, cobbled together from scrap metal, outdated satellites, and stolen alien technology, defied logic as they launched into space. They should not have worked. Humanity had never built interstellar warships before. But the serum had changed everything. They no longer followed the slow path of scientific progress. Their understanding of physics, engineering, and warfare had accelerated beyond all predictions. Within hours, human ships were not just reaching orbit, they were hunting the architects. The first attacks came without warning. A single architect warship drifting at the edge of Earth's atmosphere lost power. Its systems, once impenetrable, had been rewritten from the inside. No signals were detected, no breaches recorded. The ship simply shut down, its crew left helpless as human vessels swarmed like predators sensing wounded prey. Then another ship fell. Then another. Panic spread through the architect command structure. This was not a battle. It was something worse. Their fleet was being unmade. Every defensive measure was countered before it could be deployed. Every encryption code was cracked the moment it was written. The humans were no longer fighting conventionally. They had surpassed that. They were thinking faster, moving faster, becoming something more. And then the architects heard the message. It did not come through radio waves nor through intercepted transmissions. It came directly into their minds. A presence, vast and incomprehensible, spoke without words. It was not a single voice, but many. Billions of minds woven together, reaching beyond their physical forms. The architects had once believed themselves the pinnacle of intelligence. But now, they realized they were nothing more than children standing before something ancient, something powerful, something they had awakened by accident. The Silent Ones had seen beyond Earth, beyond the architects, beyond the limits of flesh and machine, and now they had one final message for their would-be conquerors. Run. The architects obeyed. The remaining ships, crippled and desperate, fled into the void. Their great empire, built on control and compliance, was shattered in a single day, and humanity, no longer bound by fear or limitation, turned their gaze to the stars, not as slaves, not as prey, but as something new. The architects had fled, their empire shattered, their rule undone by the very species they had sought to control. But their defeat was only the beginning. Humanity was no longer what it had been. The serum meant to enslave them had instead unlocked something far greater. The changes were permanent. The limits that had once held humans back, their hesitation, their doubts, the biological barriers within their own minds, were gone. What had begun as chaos had now settled into something structured, something intentional. The Silent Ones, the first to glimpse this new state of being, had woven their awareness together, not as individuals, but as a network of thought and understanding. They were no longer separate minds. They were a singular force. And they were still evolving. Across Earth, the last remnants of the old world faded. Governments crumbled, not from war or uprising, but from irrelevance. The need for leadership, for power, for control, it no longer existed in the same way. Knowledge flowed freely, shared instantly between those who had awakened. Where once it had taken years to develop new technologies, now ideas formed, expanded, and became reality within moments. The first true human starships were built in days, not crude imitations of architect vessels, but something entirely different. Machines that responded not to controls but to thought itself. They bent the laws of physics in ways the architects had never dreamed of. The serum had not just enhanced intelligence, it had given humanity a deeper understanding of existence itself. And with that understanding came a decision. The architects had ruled through control. They had spread across the stars, turning free species into mindless servants, enforcing their will upon those too weak to resist. But now the architects were the ones running, their ships scattered, their empire collapsing. Humanity could have pursued them. They could have annihilated their former oppressors, ensuring that the architects never threatened another species again, but they didn't. They had already moved beyond such things. Revenge was a concept tied to the past, to the old ways of thinking. Humanity had no need for conquest or domination. They had become something more than what the architects had feared. Instead of war, they sent a message, not in words, not in threats, but in understanding. A single thought, projected across the void, reaching every architect world, every hidden fleet, every survivor of their broken empire, a message not of vengeance but of inevitability. Evolve or be forgotten. The architects had sought to create perfect obedience. Instead, they had forged something beyond their comprehension. And as humanity took its first steps beyond Earth, their path was clear. They would not conquer. They would not destroy. They would ascend. Not as individuals, but as the first of something new. Thank you for watching Starlight Sci-Fi. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more thrilling sci-fi content. What do you think happened to the architects? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep looking to the stars, because the best stories are still waiting to be told.